Hey, I wanted to talk a little bit more about a video I had made a couple weeks ago, generally about dysfunctional relationships, relationships that exhibit pattern cycles, codependent relationships, relationships where people are trying to get what they want in dysfunctional ways, emotional manipulation, and all manner of stuff. Psychological manipulation techniques. You can look that on Wikipedia. There's about 18 different ones. But you'll find there's many people out in the world that if you get tangled up with them, if you get involved with them, they'll use all 18, and they'll use them frequently. And a lot of times these relationships exhibit patterning cycles. They're not free flowing. They don't evolve over time. You tend to get stuck where the same thing is happening again and again. And I want to talk more about why that happens. In the other video I talked about how it's actually really simple. Like if you're in touch with your feelings and you look on the surface at what actually happens, there's not so much words needed. You can look at how you feel, what actually happens, what the person actually does. And like I was talking about in the other video, 3 chances, and kind of explain to them, if they're doing something wrong that makes you uncomfortable, you can explain to them 2 times, 3 times. But if it turns into an argument and stuff, there's nothing really to talk about and to drop it and lessen the activation of your mind. Just drop the energy from your mind. Well, that's what I wanted to talk about today. Is I have 2 techniques that is going to make that really easy, while also pointing out how this actually happens, why people tend to get stuck. And what it has to do with is listening very carefully and really paying attention when these conflicts occur, because it happens with certain types of individuals. And we'll talk more about this later in the video, but let's say you have a concern, a chronic issue that's happening. It makes you uncomfortable, you don't like it, and it's kind of a make it or break it issue with you. And keep in mind, this is chronic. It exhibits patterning. It happens over and over and over. And when you tend to bring this up to the person, you're communicating in a very clear manner, and you're very upfront about what the issue is, how you feel about it, what your needs are, and what your question is. You'll tend to notice in these types of situations what that person says right then. First, usually what will happen is they'll talk, even though you've come and you say, hey, there's this chronic problem, it's a serious issue, it's kind of a make it or break it issue for me, it's happened again, what's up with that? But what they'll tend to do is focus on the latest little thing, and if you'll notice, there'll always be some kind of technicality, some type of exception to this latest instance that, number one, makes it an exception. It's so let's look at that first of all. If you listen carefully to what they're saying, beyond the fact that they're changing the subject, like you came and said, hey, there's this chronic problem, this is a make it or break it issue, this happens over and over, what's up with that? And they're talking about, this is different, there's a special situation here, it's a technicality, you don't understand, you have it all wrong. Besides the fact that they're changing the subject right there, and also that they're making you wrong, they're saying somehow you're wrong, when really all you're talking about is facts. You say, hey, this is what happened, that's a fact, this tends to have happened in the past, that's a fact, and the way that I feel right now is a fact, and the fact that it's a make it or break it issue is a fact. And those are all facts, so how am I all wrong about all of those? But that's what will happen. And beyond the fact that they're talking about this latest instance as there's some kind of technicality that makes it an exception, but isn't that what's happened with all the instances? Isn't that why it hasn't been addressed yet? Isn't that why it hasn't been fixed yet? Because there's always, every time it happens, there's always an exception. But beyond that, if we really look at what that person is saying in that moment, when you've come to them with this clear about the issue, about that has happened, about the facts, and about how you feel, If they try to, oh, you have it all wrong, there's a technicality, really what they're saying is, I want to keep it exactly how it is. That's what they're really saying, is I want this to keep going exactly how it is. I want this dynamic, this situation to stay exactly how it is. I wanted to keep working just like that. And that's the results you'll probably get with these type of people. It's like, if you look, it never changes. It always works like that, because that's effectively what they're saying to you. But this is tip number one. If you were able to hear that right then you have all the information you need. They're giving you an answer, and there's nothing to talk about. It's just they gave you an answer that's the way they roll. It's always going to be like that. So there's nothing really to talk about. But usually what will happen, this happens to me, and this is what I just realized, is that you think they've somehow misunderstood because they've changed the subject to something else. They responded like as if they're responding to a different question, and they're saying you're wrong, and so you go, there must be a misunderstanding here. They've misunderstood the question I was talking about. They don't get what I'm talking about. They've missed the point. They don't see what they're doing. And so that's when you engage and you try to explain it some more. That's exactly where you make your mistake. Just as a personal example, I've in one of these relationships, or have been, and just throughout time, there's this specific instance of this person tends to say one thing, and then it comes out that it's actually the opposite of what they say. They'll make it sound one way. They'll make it sound like it was one thing, and then something happens and you find out it's actually the opposite of what they said. And in my situation, this tends to happen over and over and over, like on a weekly basis, and it creates this atmosphere of I don't know what to believe. I don't know what's going on. It doesn't feel good. This keeps happening over and over and over, and it gets into the situation where it's like you don't know what to believe and whatever, and there's always an exception every time, and I always have to be wrong every time, and so the end result chronically over time is they're above all rules. They just do whatever, and you're above no rules, and you're always wrong and always gets blamed you. And I realized the problem that was creating this is thinking that they didn't understand when I tried to get it addressed or tried to get them to see what they were doing. I was thinking because of the way they would respond, I would think they couldn't see. So the latest instance would be like just out of the blue, them going, and keep in mind, this is after a history of lots and lots of things and reasons to be paranoid, that out of the blue they say, yeah, I don't use Facebook Messenger that much. No one contacts me on Facebook Messenger. I don't use it that much. So they're trying to make it sound like one way. And then very shortly later, a couple days later, it's like they're unrelated talking about how 10 gigabytes of data, cell data, off Wi-Fi, cellular data goes through their phone a month. And I'm thinking, 10 gigabytes, like what? Where is that coming from? And so I was just trying to figure out, and in the process, there's 1.2 gigabytes going through Facebook Messenger. But wait a second, didn't you say that you don't even use it, but you're streaming gigabytes through it? Oh well, I stream my friends. I talk to my friends. I stream my friends. And so right there, my issue was like, okay, this kind of brings up a lot of other stuff that has happened that never got addressed because there was always a technicality for that stuff. But the basic thing I'm saying here is you always are saying it's one way, and then it turns out to be opposite. So why didn't you just say how it was in the first place? Why does it have to be the opposite of everything you say? What's up with that? And that's all I'm trying to get addressed. But what happens was, oh, well, I was just talking to my friends. It's like, well, I understand that, but like, that's not even my question. And then it turns into, oh, well, you're just jealous. You're just saying I can't talk to my friends. You're just insecure. And that's right where I make the mistake, because when it gets flipped on me, I'm thinking, oh, she totally just misunderstood my point here. My point is none of that. I'm not trying to say she can't talk to her friends. I'm just saying, why do you do this stuff where you make it sound like one way and look like one way, but it actually the opposite is going on? What's up with that? Because that destroys trust, and this is kind of a make it or break it thing. I wasn't saying any of that. And then all of a sudden I'm off and running, and talking, the subject has effectively been completely changed over what I was trying to talk about and what I effectively needed to be addressed. It was a make it or break thing, but now the subject has changed, that I'm jealous or I'm insecure, and I'm like, well, I am insecure. That's my point. I'm trying to say, why can't you see that these things that you're chronically doing make me insecure in this situation, but I'm not a generally insecure person at all. That's the problem, that in this situation I am made to be insecure because of this activity. What's up with that? And it turns into this thing. But I realized the fundamental problem is thinking that this person didn't understand my point, couldn't see what they were doing to me, didn't understand the thing, and that they're misunderstanding and confused, and that's why the subject has changed and we're off in the weeds and it got flipped on me and now I have to talk about stuff. When all of a sudden it hit me, because of some other stuff, I realized, no, they understand exactly what they're doing. They understand perfectly what my point is. They know exactly what they're doing. That they're doing this on purpose. Why? Because as soon as that happens, they have the control. As soon as I'm insecure, jealous, the subject has changed, I'm on the defense, I'm arguing, and my point has never been addressed. That's exactly what they wanted. So this brings up something. It's like, that's why not to get into arguments about things like this. You know in your heart what feels right and what doesn't, and what people are doing and stuff. And so if you come to them clearly and want to talk to them, and they act like they don't get it, they act like they don't understand, and they respond with some thing that, oh, you're just jealous, in fact, you're the one who doesn't understand. No, they didn't meet you on any kind of terms. They know perfectly well what they're doing. They understand perfectly what you're talking about. They're doing this on purpose, and that's why cycles go round and round. That's why patterns don't change, is because they understand perfectly well. They're choosing it to be that way. They want it to be that way. They know perfectly well what it does to you. They don't care, and they're doing it on purpose. That's number one thing. Anytime you think someone doesn't understand and you're in some kind of argument or fight about it, and like proving your point, maybe stop and assume that, no, they do understand. That's the whole problem, is they want me to believe they don't understand. That gives them the control. They understand perfectly well, okay? Just accept that for now. They understand. The second thing is, like, you don't want to ever be entering into that anyway. Another way to say this is, do not meet resistance with resistance, okay? First of all, there's only certain types of people that do this, and you want to practice being able to start quickly identifying these types of people. People that are going to move through time in the future with you and evolve with you and do that dance, and where stuff is getting better and better and it doesn't stay in these loops and stay the same. Look, there's disagreements happen where people fundamentally don't agree on points, or they don't agree on philosophies. Misunderstandings do happen where someone doesn't understand what you're trying to talk about. But if such people care about you, and they care about working on things with you, and they care about a future with you, even if they disagree with your point, and even if they don't understand, you'll see them trying to understand. You'll see them trying to care about your side of the story a little bit, or care about your feelings, or care about the deal that you're getting in the relationship. This is if they want the thing to work if they want it to move them forward. You're going to see that. There's another type of person that just is the rock in this stream. Like, you're in this stream and you're trying to flow down life, and some people are these rocks, staying steady in the middle of the stream, never going to budge. And when you have a disagreement with them, they're never going to see your side. It's always their way or the highway, and it's full on resistance. Learn to quickly identify these people and never meet resistance with resistance. Never meet force with force. This is something that comes from martial arts, especially certain types of martial arts that I like Hapkido, which is a Korean martial art, Aikido. There's elements of Japanese jiu-jitsu, which is related to Aikido. But it's more of the circular types of martial arts instead of linear and direct martial arts. And a big precept in these martial arts is never meet force with force. That's a good way to get injured. That's a good way to accrue damage in your life. If someone was meeting you with resistance and meeting you with force straight on, the worst thing you can do is stand right there and engage with them and resist. These martial arts teach you to use the attacker's force against them. Learn to blend with their energy. If they're sending you a certain type of forceful, you're jealous, you're insecure, when you just ask a question like, what's up with this? This always keeps happening. It's causing me a problem. This has to be solved or I can't move forward. And all they can do is a forceful, you're just jealous, you're just insecure, never stand and engage with that. That's exactly what they want you to do. That's because then you're in a loop with them, and you're the rock in the stream, and you're sitting in the stream with them, and this loop that's never going to go anywhere. That's what they want. Blend with their force. Whatever direction they're moving, move with it. Slip. Go around the rock. Find any way to go around the rock. If they're meeting you with resistance and there's a conflict, the best thing you could do is big old smile and thumb in the service, and you're already going behind their back. You're already going around them because they're never going to change. Those kind of people are rocks in a stream. They're long after you're gone, they're going to be trying to get someone else to get in that loop with them. That's what they like to do. That's what they are. They wouldn't be trying so hard to do that if they weren't. They realize they know what they're doing. They're doing it on purpose. That's why it keeps happening over. They want to be stuck in that loop. So the worst thing you can do is engage with that. Learn to quickly see, this is one of those people. They're not trying to work with me at all. I mean, this is not just, we have a disagreement of philosophies, but we can still work together, and here's why we're talking about it. We're compromising. This person is outright resisting, changing the subject, and all that stuff. The worst thing you can do is engage with that and try to push back or argue back or prove your point, because that's exactly what they want you to do right then. They want you to be proving your point and putting that energy out, because right there they have the control. And remember that the whole time they're above the rules. That's someone you're never going to be able to reconcile with or talk to. They're going to do whatever they want and make sure that you get to do none of what you want. It's a one-sided thing, like I said in the other video. So the key is, that's number 2. If someone is outright resisting you and not trying to move forward, and even if there's a disagreement, even if there's a misunderstanding, that they're still showing that they want to have this in the future or work with you or compromise or make sure you feel understood or address your stake in the relationship, whether this is a business relationship, a romantic relationship, or even family or whatever. Normal relationships, people consider each other's stake in it and each other's feelings, and they try to compromise because they want it to move forward. There's certain people that don't want things to move forward. They want things to stay and work in a certain dynamic, and those dynamics tend to be advantageous for them and non-advantageous for the other person. Okay? Learn to identify that quickly and just go around those people. There's no reason to engage with them. There's no reason to talk to them. Quickly identify those people and just slip right around them. That's what I'm talking about. Don't put your attention on people like that. You'll get stuck. You'll get stuck in a little loop with them where it's advantageous for them and not for you. And above, I'm going to add a third tip, is really just, if you use the first tips, realize that, okay, if someone's forcefully resisting you or like trying to push you around or say it's this or say it's that when you're just trying to have a discussion and solve a problem, not resisting that, and never thinking that somehow they don't understand, they've misunderstood your issue that you're trying to get addressed, that they don't see what they do. Just from now on, assume that of course they see, of course they know what they're doing, of course. Knowing those two things, really listen to what's being said, because if you bring up an issue, no matter what, they're still giving you an answer. You just have to hear it. If you bring up this kind of stuff like I did with the Facebook Messenger stuff, and all of a sudden the subject is changed and it's all about you and how you're insecure and how you're jealous, really, they kind of answered my question. It's like, it's exactly what I thought. They're answering your question. So if you stay in these situations, it's your choice. That you can bring this stuff up, and there's never any reason for an argument. There's never any reason for so much talking. People are actually answering your questions right away. If you're trying to bring up an issue and someone changes the subject, that's your answer right there. So think about this. Try to spot these people in your life and try to employ this with your existing dysfunctional relationships. Life is too short to waste arguing, trying to prove your point. If someone can't get it, first of all, assume that they do get it and they're doing it on purpose, because that's just the way they are, and move on, move right around them, and you'll enjoy life a lot more. I hope that helps. See ya.